I'm Coach Kevin Guy, and this is Rattlers Uncoiled.
I see.
Don't ever question me, baby. Look at those banners up in the air.
Welcome to Rattlers Uncoiled. I'm Jay Gonzalez, Director of Media for the Arizona Rattlers, here with Head Coach Kevin Guy. We're here to talk about last game and the one coming up. We got one this Saturday. We got the Tulsa Oilers coming in, a tough team that we'll talk about a little bit. We're also going to have a great guest today, Noah Berlin, our game director, who directs all the things that go on during the game, aside from what's on the field, and he'll tell you all about just everything that goes into producing a game. But Kevin, let's talk about that great win up in the 44-32 win last week. You went behind. You were behind going into the locker room, but you came out. The defense again stepped up and played really well in the second half and gave you guys a chance to get that one.
I'm going to take you back a few weeks. We didn't play well in our first road game, so
right.
we wanted to make sure that we got out of there with a win. And the way we started kind of slow. We had a great week of practice, so I felt good going into the game. I felt like we were prepared and the guys were ready to play. I think anytime you travel, it's really hard in this league to win on the road, and we've always had a tough time when we go in and play in that building.
Right.
The fans are just sitting right on top of you, and it's a big in-state rival, right? And you want to win the IFL championship, but you also want to win the state because you want to win the recruiting wars, right? So.
Right.
But we went up there and was a little slow out the gate and went in at halftime behind. But really, I just went in and told the team, look, we just need to execute. We got some looks. We've played 4 different games now with and have we've seen 4 different looks on defense. So, I made the comment, I was kidding with Max. I said, I know you played in the East and everybody plays cover 2 and cover 3, but I said in the West, I said the D coordinators are the ones that make it a little difficult because everybody's got a different style and you got to prepare different every week. And we're still young. I explained to the team and I'll explain to the fans right now. I mean, we have an all rookie defense and then 6 of our 8 starters on offense are new to the program, so they're learning a new offense. So it's just part of the growing pain and that we got to go through. But I really feel like we're getting close to getting ready to turn the corner. And I can just tell the last couple of weeks how we've practiced, how we've been engaged, our mindset, the frame of mind. But great game this past Saturday. I think we went on a 24-0 run in the second half to close it out. So, excited for the guys and always happy for our fans and our assistant coaches and our players when we get a win.
Well, at the end of the game, you used the word playmakers. You said we've got playmakers. They're young, but they're playmakers. What do you mean by that when you say a playmaker? What is that to you?
Well, the thing I'm excited about this year is we got defensive backs that can get hands on balls. I've explained this before, but you've seen the movie Moneyball, right? And they have this formula of how they pick. I have a formula in how I recruit defensive backs, and interceptions is one of them. And I want someone that's got a history of interceptions. I can teach them the technique, but I want somebody that has a knack for getting their hands on the ball because this is a possession game. It's not a field position game. So it's like basketball. It's back and forth. And,
right.
And so you want turnovers, you want stops, and out of our 4 games, 3 games, if you take that Fisher Freight game out, we're the number 1 defense in the league with an all rookie defense. We just didn't play well that game, and again, we saw something that they needed to see and go through. But we got playmakers. We got playmakers up front too. We got we got some guys that can rush the passer, and one of the things that we live by. Here at the Arizona Rattlers is pressure, pick, cover, sack, and they go hand in hand. So we have a pressure style defense, and and we play a lot of man, which also helps on RPOs. It takes away from RPOs, and you're starting to see the league evolve towards a lot of RPOs over the last couple of years.
Yeah, you mentioned that you like defensive backs that have a history of interceptions. There were 3 last week. Every stop is an important play. It's a key play. But at the time that these ones came, 2 of them in the second half, one at the end of the game to stop them from having any chance to win the game, and then one that, kept the momentum going for you guys. These defensive backs, as you say, are young, but are you seeing the level of progression, the level of improvement game to game that you hope to see from these guys?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's always areas that you can get better at, and as we see it on film, we're trying to address it and address it during the week through drilling it and technique fundamentals. But you got to recruit the athletes, right?
Right.
You got to get the athletes and
better players make you a better coach, right?
Yeah, and we're not where we want to be. We may add some pieces as the year goes on. But I think that we got a good core group of guys, and the ones we started with. I don't like changing out a lot of players as the season goes on. I like for guys to be in training camp. I hear stories all the time around the league where, some guys didn't report to camp. They come a few weeks late for whatever reason. I just tell my guys, hey, if you're not in camp, we're moving on without you. We'll get somebody else, because camp is so important that you get those 2 weeks with them. And you're basically 24/7 for 2 weeks, and you're getting them, dialed in, and they got to learn to trust their training. And but I think it makes a big difference. And I want my answers. I want the answers coming out of training camp. I don't want to be looking for answers throughout the season. Right.
Well, and I think you talked about that at the beginning of the year. That last year there was a lot of changing going on throughout the year.
Well, injuries on a small roster can do that.
As a guy who, part of my job is to keep an eye on the roster and make sure that the broadcast people there haven't been a ton of changes early in the season here. So you obviously like the guys that you have.
Yeah, I think we've only brought in, one player. John, the pass rusher from Wisconsin, we brought him in, but John Pius. But we haven't really made a lot of changes. I think you got to develop players, and that's the name of this game.
Yeah. Okay, so we're 3-1. That just one bad game that kind of starting to look like an outlier, right? Because you've had 3 pretty good games, but. Are you ready to say that your defense is starting to show some consistency, or how long does it take for you to feel like, okay, we've been consistent?
I'll speak on this. I think around somewhere between week 6 and week 8 of, when I say week 6, week 8, we started a little behind the rest of the league. So, after every team gets 6-8 games in, you're going to start seeing teams start to separate. Mm-hmm. And it's always in that right around that 6th game to 8th game where teams are going to start to separate, and we're getting closer to that. We've played 4. Mm-hmm. We got a couple more. We got two tough ones. We got Tulsa coming up. They're tough. They're going to be a very physical team, and and then we got Las Vegas, and so those are back to back. You got the champs. So. We're going to find out a little bit about who we are over the next 2 weeks, I believe.
Yeah. So we've talked a bunch about the defense. You've mentioned a number of times. You've got a new quarterback. He's a proven quarterback. He's a good quarterback, but he's in a new system. What did he look like? What did Max Myler look like to you last week?
Well, I think he's still trying to get a grasp on the offense. I mean, he knows the game. That's not the issue. Going through his reads, the progressions. It's just new for him, and he's. I say all the time to the players, get comfortable being uncomfortable, and he's out of his environment. But I think he's adjusting well. I think he's on schedule, and we've been. It's not just learning the offense. As we start playing games, we start game planning teams, and then we start putting in new plays every week. To attack whatever that team is doing. Right. So. Not only has he had to come in and learn a system, but he's had probably to move a little faster because we're moving week to week.
Right.
And he's having to process that information. And playing quarterback's all about processing information. And when you get the play call from the coach, you go to the huddle, you call it, and then you got to line up and look at the defense. You got to think about, at some point in there, you got to think about the play and see a picture, right? And then look at your defense, scan your field, and go through your progression. So, he's going to be fine. And I thought he did some good things the other night. There's some again, 4 different defenses in 4 weeks. So it's a learning lesson every time we step on the field.
All right. We're going to take our first break. We're going to come back with Noah Berlin. He's our game director. He's the guy who's directing all the things that are going on at the Snake Pit, Desert Diamond Arena during the game, the cannon going off, the dance team running onto the field, the promos. All of that takes a lot of coordination. Noah's going to talk to everybody about how that works. So you kind of get a sense when you're at a game what all that looks like and where it comes from. So stick around for Noah Berlin. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Rattlers Uncoiled. I'm Jay Gonzalez, Director of Media for the Arizona Rattlers, here with head coach Kevin Guy. We've got what we think is going to be a fun guest in here with Noah Berlin, who is our game director. He directs all the stuff going on at the games, outside of calling plays and stuff like that on the field. Noah is in charge of when the cannon goes off, when the dance team comes on the floor, all of those things. So, Noah, what we want to talk to the fans about with this is, some of the stuff that goes on that they don't see, and how all this is really, as your title applies, directed by you during the course of a game. Just talk to us a little bit about getting ready for a game and all the things that have to be in place for the event.
Yeah, well, something I would like the fans to understand is that even though this is a professional sports game, the way we treat it, we put on a show just like any kind of television show. We have graphics, we have videos that get played, we have music, we have cameras, stats on the board, all these things that have to all come together to be one seamless show, just like a show you see on television or something like that. So that's really what we're all about. And there's a lot of documents, there's a ton of prep work that it takes to make sure this goes seamlessly. And it takes really everybody from departments like corporate partnerships, who bring in some of the sponsors, who do a lot of the fun things that we're able to do. But then people like the camera operators, the DJs, the PA announcer, our in-game host, all these people work together. And so what I try to do is set them up for success by putting together a very, very detailed run of show that has everything going on to the second. And I'm talking from the moment the gates open all the way through pregame, and we go boom, boom, boom with some of these things, with player warm-ups, introductions, national anthems, color guards, the coin toss. All these things have to happen at a very, very specific time. And it's really not an option for anything to be a little bit late, because it throws everything off. So it's something that we're all working together to make sure that happens, putting together a very complex run of shows, putting together scripts for our PA, for our hosts, and again, making sure that everyone is doing their part to make sure we put on the most entertaining product, but also a show that allows us to have a home field advantage at the Snake Pit.
Well, you've talked about that a lot, Kevin. I mean, you want to have a good team, but you also want to have a great game environment so that fans have a great time, but you also maybe intimidate the other team a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we do. We want to have a great home field advantage, and Noah directs that behind the scenes and gets the energy in the building and fan engagement and all that stuff. Noah, I know you've worked NFL games, some college games. You worked all over the place doing the game director. I'm just curious, when you interviewed for the Arizona Rattlers jobs, have you ever had to interview with the head coach to get the gig?
Totally different experience. Yeah, I have a lot of experience with different sports and different shows, different organizations, but this was very unique for me to sit down with the head coach. But I love that, though, because like I said, it's very important for when I'm brainstorming of doing my job, how can I give the team what they want to hear? How can I give the fans what they want to hear? How can I give us the best home field advantage possible? And there's no better person to ask firsthand than the head coach. So this was a unique experience for me, and it's definitely been a lot of fun so far.
How is the indoor football league different from some of those others that you've done? You talk about this being a show. Is it more of a show than it is in other places, that there's more emphasis on it than, say, a college football game or an NFL game or whatever other work you've done?
It's that's a good question. It's just really different. Truthfully, the game itself is very different. It's a smaller field. Everything moves so much quicker. So really, I think that I have to be prepared basically at all times for a score. which is exciting. That's why people love the team. That's why people love the league. But me, I have to know what we're doing after every score and find moments that we could really hype up, whether it's, the defense, we need a big hold here. So I'm going to be calling for big things like third down lockdowns, some really important things that we're known for, some traditions, but something that hopefully will get the defense to step up in big and key moments. Same goes when it's the offense that are driving, but I have to be ready for any sort of timeouts that occur right after a score. And in other football, at least, just not at that much scoring. So it's a little bit different in that regard.
And while you've got all this going on, you've also got the broadcast guys, they've got their script and everything that has to happen there, especially with the national broadcast contract we have this year. How's there coordination between those? Do you have to know what they're doing? Do they have to know what you're doing in order for this thing to run smoothly on both sides?
Yeah, there's definitely a synergy that has to take place between the in-arena show and the broadcast show. A lot of it, let's say with pregame, for example, sometimes the broadcast might want to take the national anthem live. Sometimes they might want to be in commercial break when we're doing the national anthem so it doesn't interrupt some of the things that they're doing. So knowing when they're going to be going to breaks is critical for when we are planning what we're doing. And then once the game is going on, I'm constantly in communication with the red hat, which is the individual that's the main person that's in communication with the broadcast truck. So they can tell me, hey, it looks like the Rattlers are driving here. If they score, we're going to go to a break after the kick. And then that way I can notify everyone on the headset with me, which is a ton of people, all the cameras, all the graphics operators, our video director, all the people up in the control room, let them know that, hey, everybody, a break is going to be coming up and this is what we're going to be doing during this timeout. So it's important to always know what the broadcast is doing so that we can be ready for what we need to do.
No, I know my staff has told me that they've raved about your leadership and what a great job you've done as a game director so far. I'm just wondering, you mentioned that all the scoring that goes on in the IFL. Does it still shake you a little bit when the cannon goes off after our touchdowns?
A little bit. It shakes me a lot every single time. Every time. I know it's going to happen too. Now, the first game, I was really caught off guard. Every time beyond that, though, I know it's going to happen, and it makes me jump each time.
Who's responsible for that? Who sets that off?
That's someone up in the control room. So that's one thing I do not call. They're just on it. They know to hit it immediately. And so that's why it was jarring the first time for sure. But every time, it's so exciting, though. I mean, now I love it, even though it kind of makes me jump.
Well, the game director position is really important, and I know we wanted to get it right this year, and we certainly feel that way. Talk about some of the other positions like the PA announcer and DJ and the host and how important they are to the show, because there was some other areas that we wanted to improve and try to get better. It's all about the fans' experience when they come to our games, and we really were looking for that energy in the building, and certainly I know the music, and I know the players love the music when we're. It's not always about the players; it's about the fans too. But I know the players have mentioned several times that they love the music.
Yeah, those three positions specifically are absolutely critical as far as the fan experience goes and just the game experience goes. Starting with the DJ, I mean, nothing, as you just said, there's nothing more important than the music because it is so prevalent throughout the entirety of the experience, from fans when they walk into the building and they hear it on the concourse to big moments throughout the game. The music is very, very important. And we try to be strategic with when we play certain things, how we can use music to our advantage to pump up the team and add energy to the fans as well. And also just letting them hear things they want to hear. That's really, really important. And honestly, probably one of the most important aspects of the show as a whole. As far as the PA announcer and our in-game host go, also critical. The way, with my philosophy, I like to think of it as the PA announcer obviously gets the fans loud, are you ready? Things like that. But also the PA announcer is the one to deliver messaging, whether it's corporate messaging, just read general announcements, things like that. Whereas I want the host to be kind of the voice of the fan. I want him to be the everyman who essentially is just the biggest Rattlers fan we got. And we plucked him out of the seats because he's such a fan that he resonates with all the other fans in the building. They can identify with him and he identifies with them. And that's kind of the difference in my mind between the way I treat the scripts that I write for a host versus the scripts that I write for a PA announcer.
All right, Noah, well, you got another show to put on this Saturday, 5 o'clock. We got the Tulsa Oilers coming in, so we'll be looking for you to direct the show, and hopefully the team puts on a good show as well on Saturday. So thanks for joining us today. We do appreciate it, and we'll see you Saturday.
Most definitely. Let's get another win. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Noah.
Welcome back to Rattlers Uncoiled. I'm here with head coach Kevin Guy, getting ready to talk about Saturday's game coming up with the Tulsa Oilers coming to the Snake Pit. We've got a team that maybe we don't know much about them yet or how good they are because they've got a 1-2 record, but as you've pointed out, they played two of the better teams in the league, lost both those games by one score. What do you think you see from the Tulsa Oilers, and what can we expect on Saturday?
Well, we never get caught up in looking at records because all these guys get paid to play, and you know, Marvin Jones, their head coach, has always played us tough. When he's been with other teams, and then we went up and played Tulsa up there a couple of years ago, and we made a late interception to kind of seal the game. So, he brought in Billy back as his offensive coordinator. During the off season. Billy was the head coach at Tucson the previous 2 years and Frisco before that, and he's always had some really good teams. And look, both those coaches have done a really good job, and them teaming up together, I look for them to turn that thing around and compete for a championship. So we got our hand, our work cut out for us, this week. They got some great players. Are led by quarterback T.J. Edwards. He started his career here with the Rattlers. He was Drew's backup his rookie year, and then he went to Frisco to play for Billy. So they've teamed back up in Tulsa. And then Germanic Smith is a receiver to keep your eye on. He makes a lot of big plays for those guys, and they got a lot of talent. So it's going to be tough. We're at home. We're trying to get better every week. Again, as I said earlier in the show, it's all about developing players right now and learning the systems. And as we get closer to that week 6, week 8, right around there, teams will start to pull apart. But I totally expect Tulsa to come in and give us everything that we want, and they will be in the hunt on the east side for sure. You've got back-to-back wins that you're going into this game with. You want to start to string some wins together. You're a quarter of the season through. How much of a step forward do you need this week? Giant step, maybe just another kind of medium step. I want to score one more point than they do. So if we can score one more point than they do, I'll be happy. I'd rather learn these life lessons and these lessons that the players are learning. While we're winning, right? So, but they're going to give us everything we want. The West has been the strongest conference over the last few years, and what you've seen is a shift in coaching. A lot of that's because of where the coaches are, right? And you've seen a shift in coaching to the East, and the East is gotten a lot stronger this year, and you can see that right away. There are 6 solid teams in the East, and only 4 are going to get in. Yeah. And I'm sure somebody over there will be complaining about whoever is the last team in on the West side, and that they're better than the West, because that's what's went on the West the last few years. Yeah. Is the West, the 5th and 6th team that's missed in the West has complained that they're better than who the 4th team was in the East. So it all evens out, and at the end of the day, it's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward towards a great fan experience and great crowd Saturday night in a hostile environment there. We want to make it loud and make it tough on these guys. All right, we're going to go into our mailbag. We asked our fans to send us some questions, and we've got some pretty good questions. But I want to ask you one, because this is something that
I like to ask coaches, and particularly guys who've been around a while, and you've been around a while, going into a game like this, for instance, you got Tulsa, they're pretty good, maybe don't look great with the record, but what makes you, after all these games, is there anything that makes you nervous before a game? Not just whether or not you're going to win, but just things that you're not sure of. Or is it similar things all the time, or is it one different thing, or do you not get nervous at all before games?
The only thing that makes me really nervous is if you got guys injured and you don't know how the depth is good until you have to get into it.
Right, right.
So, and we certainly develop players and have guys ready to play. But I'm a big believer. If you're prepared to win, I mean, I'm pretty easygoing. You don't see me out on the field before the game. I'm sitting back in the coach's office. I'm sitting on a couch, usually watching some other game around the league and talking on the phone and going over my call sheet. I'm pretty calm, before the game. Now, once I drink a couple of Mountain Dews and step on the field, the energy changes.
A whole different thing.
It's all about preparation. And if you're prepared, there's no reason to be nervous about the games. And at the end of the day, the players have got to go play.
Yep,
so
exactly.
Coaches that can't play for them.
All right, our first fan question is from Jordan, who I think is looking for a career change. He wants to know, is it possible for someone to join an indoor football team or a college team without playing in high school?
Well, indoor football team, I highly doubt it. I mean, we're getting NFL cut guys, and what's best left over from college football. And football's a different sport than basketball or baseball. Or you see a lot of these younger guys playing.
Either you can shoot or you can hit a ball, or you can't.
You have to develop. Your body has to develop for the physicality, and there's so much from a mindset, learning the systems and things like that. So, no. Now, college, every once in a while you hear a crazy story where they take a basketball player and made him a tight end in college, but he didn't play high school football. You might hear something like that. But after college, no way.
You got to be. You got to be a great athlete.
Yeah,
I mean, just step on the field during a practice, and you'll see how good of what great athletes these guys are.
Yeah, I mean, I sit in our practices and I go, how did this? Sometimes I look at a kid and go, how did this kid not get a shot in the NFL, or maybe he got a shot and he's trying to get back there, right?
All right. Big Head Fred, who I think is a fan who's followed you wherever you go, wants to know, what's been the most challenging part of the move to Glendale and Desert Diamond Arena, and what has been the most rewarding?
The most challenging is I live in Southeast Gilbert, okay, and driving to Glendale.
We guessed that was going to be your answer, by the way.
That's definitely the most challenging. Most rewarding is our season tickets went up 40%. Moving to Glendale. So we were extremely excited about that and support that we've gotten out in Glendale. And listen, we won a championship our first year in Glendale. So a lot of positives there.
Okay, so this is one of those questions that we as parents get asked all the time, and we never answer the question because we know we'll get in trouble if we do. But Stephen in Baltimore wants to know, who was your favorite player that you coached and also played with?
Well, I got a lot of favorite players. You said his name was Stephen in Baltimore?
Stephen in Baltimore wants to know.
I'm just curious, do I know a Stephen in Baltimore that's trying to set me up here? Probably the guy that I grew up with as a young coach when I first got started was a young man named Marquise Floyd. He started playing for me at the Tennessee Valley Vipers. He played for me when I went to Rio Grande Valley down in South Texas. He played for me in San Jose, and he came and played for me in Arizona. And along the way, he got picked up and was able to play in the NFL. But me and Marquise wasn't very far off in age. I was a very young coach. I was the youngest coach ever hired at 26 years old when I got my job. I recruited him out of West Georgia. He was a 3-time All-American, Division II All-American, and he's the oldest player I've ever had to get picked up by the NFL. He was 28 years old when he got picked up. So, but his personality and my personality, we just had a great time. But I've had a lot of favorites. I mean, me and Nick Davila were very close. I was close with a lot of our players, Antaj Hawthorne, Rod Windsor. I mean, all those guys were great in the locker room. And you always think about those guys from the early years, right? Because that's kind of help. They're the ones that really helped you get your career
Right.
going, and
Right. They got you where you are.
Yeah, and you know, the ones now I'm just still getting to know. I tell them all the time, if you want me to remember your name, make plays, and I'll remember it pretty quick, you know. So
Exactly. All right, Kevin. Well, that's
who I played with.
and when you played with?
When
Yes.
I played with, I didn't answer that second part of the question. I guess playing with, it would have to be Adrian Lunsford. You know, he was a young man that kind of took me under his wing my rookie year in Minnesota, and then we played again together in New Jersey. You know, he really taught me how to be a pro. You know, showed great leadership. We're still friends today. He lives in Texas. You know, he's came out. He went to training camp with us last year. He came out and hung out with me in training camp and gave me feedback from behind the scenes. And then he, you know, when we go play San Antonio, he always pops up. You know, I think he knows I'm always trying. He's trying to stick me with a dinner bill. So.
Well, that's the thing. You know, you play these sports. You go to battle with these guys all the time, and they kind of stick with you. I think anybody who's played in a team sport has guys like that. I mean, you know, I think of guys that I played Little League baseball with, and I think I still see some of those guys. And I go, you know, we had a great time.
For sure.
That's
I mean, but I would say the most two players that I was in sync with, like mentally, we saw everything eye to eye, was Marquise Floyd and Nick Davila. That was the two over the years. But I've had some great ones. I mean, there's been a lot of fun ones to coach.
All right, well, let's see if Kevin's got another player that's going to make a great impression on him this weekend. We're in the Desert Diamond Arena at 5 o'clock against the Tulsa Oilers. You can get your tickets at Ticketmaster or azrattlers.com. We hope to see you out there in the Snake Pit, and hope we're walking away with the third straight win this Saturday. So hope to see you there.
I see
Don't ever question me, baby. Look at those banners up in the air.